doctor was on call 24 hours for 30 days.
That's ridiculous.
No sleep. Do you think that doctor can be effective?
No. There's a surgeon who was sleep deprived, went in to operate. They ended up removing the wrong leg.
Is it because the doctors don't care about the patient?
My father was in his last moment, and all of a sudden, this nurse barged into the room with my family, and she said, "Y'all are too many in this room." In Nigeria particularly, we are now faced with this Japa Syndrome. Now it's one doctor to 10,000.
A lot of doctors are putting themselves on the line for the inadequacies of the system.
Exactly. There is a culture of being silenced. How far can we go until things need to change?
Dr. Tychus, good to have you here.
Great to be here. Thank you so much, Onoso.
This conversation should have happened since.
Yes, it should have.
Because it's something we just keep walking around. Meanwhile, a lot of lives are at stake.
Absolutely.
And that's why we titled it Silent Emergency in Nigerian Healthcare.
Yeah.
But when you hear that, what comes to mind? What's
Ooh.
the first thing that pops up in your head?
There are several things, but I would say the first thing that comes to mind is burnout.
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 Why burnout?
Yeah, because over the last year or so, I have been privileged to talk to several physicians, nurses, and other healthcare professionals across Nigeria. And
By physicians, you mean doctors?
Doctors.
Yes.
Yes. And it has come to mind that a lot of people feel neglected. A lot of people are running on empty because of system issues, personal issues, governmental issues, and so on. And I believe nobody is really asking, how are the healers doing? The people doing the healing, how are they doing? And so, then service suffers, right? The kind of care that patients are getting are suffering. We see all these videos that are being posted every day of, care, neglect, and so on and so forth. And there are so many more stories that are being told that are not even publicized. So people hear these things, and even though there's a lot of good going on, these are the stories that we hear about, unfortunately.
When we say burnout, right?
Yeah.
Is it at the point where the doctor is, you know what, I'm done with this, but I'm just running on empty? Because people say when you go to those hospitals, it's looking like doctors don't care about patients. I hear that a lot. Now, is it because the doctors don't care about the patients, or because they can't beat the system that you've just mentioned? And so there's not much they can do to fight the system.
Yeah, so you've rightly said it, that burnout starts in the system, but it manifests in doctors. It manifests in our nurses. And what that looks like practically, for those who may be wondering, what is burnout, is, take a doctor, for example, you are no longer expanding your differential diagnosis, right? So you hear a concern and, because of decision fatigue, you only consider one thing and you say, oh, this is what you have, take your medicine and go. But normally you would come up with 3 things or 4 things, and then you would examine, you would ask, you would probe further to see, okay, what else is going on? Or it could look like, somebody is talking to you, but you're not really listening, or you're not, jumping on the empathy cues to really see and connect with the patient. As a nurse, a patient is calling you from their room, maybe using their call bell. And instead of concern, you have irritation, right? So the normal responses that you used to have, you no longer have them. And they've turned to the antithesis of those things. And, where medicine used to bring you joy, you felt, oh my God, I've changed somebody's life today. Now you're like, is this what I signed up for? So all those things, sometimes when you start thinking about it more and more, it's just like a snowball effect, and it keeps building and building. And then every small thing that goes wrong keeps going. Now, in Nigeria particularly, we are now faced with this Japa Syndrome, right?
Yeah.
Where now it's one doctor to 10,000. And I truly believe that those numbers are really underrepresented.
I agree.
And then, we've lost 60 to 70% of our doctor population, according to recent stats.
So the ones that are left behind are
So the ones that are left behind are overburdened. So at the end of the day, we're human beings. And, if we're to be honest, our doctors, our nurses are underpaid, right? So there's so many factors coming into all these things that we really need to pay attention to. So when you look at the systems, the processes, the fact that a doctor knows this child needs oxygen, but I don't have the oxygen, what do you want me to do? Or, the governmental issues that are going on in the country, it kind of begs the question, how far can we go until things need to change? And I'm happy to say some things hopefully are changing. But I think as practitioners, we need to look within to say we need to draw out, we need to refill. And how do we refill? I'm hoping that we'll talk about that more during this session.
What you're saying when you mentioned oxygen.
Yes.
I remember the case in Imo State. I was working in a small hospital somewhere, and there was this child who was brought in, paper whites. They had been convulsing and having a fever for a couple of days, and the parents did not do anything to help. Or rather, they tried what they could, but they couldn't help. And so when the child was almost dying, they bring the child to the hospital. Now, guess what? They bring the child to this hospital, but there is no blood to give to the child. The mother can't. The father was nowhere to be around. There was no friends and family well-wishers. And I had to donate the blood for that child because there was a lab upstairs in this particular compound. So I went upstairs, donated blood, and then came down. And within a couple of minutes, it was given to the child after being screened. But then looking back at it, I asked myself, how many of that can I do? So let's say another child comes in immediately after that child. I can't.
Right. Physically, you can't.
Physically, I can't.
Exactly.
So most times we actually realize that a lot of doctors are putting themselves on the line for the inadequacies of the system.
Exactly.
But then again, the people are blaming the doctors.
Yes.
So it feels like a double-pronged...
It's a double-edged sword that we're dealing with medical practitioners. But my stance is always, what can I do? And even when I in my not too recent past, I was chief of medicine for America's largest healthcare organization. So I managed hundreds of doctors and oversaw maybe over 500,000 patients. So at the end of the day, and systemic issues occur everywhere. Obviously, in some places worse than others. But burnout was a major issue, and especially because my tenure kind of crossed into the pandemic and everything. So burnout was an all-time high. So the question I kept asking my doctors and everybody under me was, what do we have in our box? What do we have in our hand? What can we work with? Because we might not be able to fix these system issues now, but what can we draw on the inside? What can we do without the system? Because at the end of the day, do we need a system to provide care? Yes. But when that patient is right in front of you, the way you're in front of me today, it's me and them. So can I give them the best that I can right now? And just block that out. And it takes a lot of looking introspectively and drawing out of what is already there, because that's why we went into medicine in the first place. I always tell people, if I wanted to make money, I would have probably gone into finance. I would have gone into so many other things, but there was something, altruistic that called out to us that said, I want to help people. I want to change lives. I want to make impact. And God knows we are making impact. But I think that, taking accountability, say, okay, even if the government doesn't get better, even if the systems don't get better, what can I do to help things get better?
Let me take us on a different route, but still on burnout. There's a recent study that came out and said that 5% of Nigerian doctors experience burnout in one way or the other. But you see, it's just numbers.
Yes.
What does this mean for the person on the street? The person who is watching this video right now, what does it mean for them?
Oof. I'm nervous to say.
Okay, but say it anyway.
I'm nervous to say. If I were in a closed room and I knew only medical professionals were watching this, I would be much more, open. But I would say that if a patient were watching this, you've already heard all the signs of burnout that I've mentioned. I would say, can we extend a little bit more grace to the doctors, to the nurses? Because, we all carry burdens. You came in with your physical burden, your illness, your sickness. and you met people who are supposed to take that burden off of you, whether with medication, with listening to you, showing compassion. And sometimes you don't see their invisible burdens too.
I agree.
So can we show a little bit more compassion? And a lot of physicians that I've spoken to have talked about the unmitigated verbal assault that sometimes they receive from patients. Not everybody, but sometimes there's a lot of disrespect, there's a lot of abuse, and sometimes it's
We've also
fear.
had patient relatives beating up doctors.
Exactly. And sometimes there's fear because they're afraid, oh, you're not doing this, oh, they've said this hospital does this, oh, they said, and then, so there's a lot of projection that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would say, if the patients are listening to me, is things are not always as when a doctor is smiling or when they're not smiling. Sometimes there's a huge story behind that facade. And I think we all need to extend grace to each other. So doctors to patients, patients to doctors. So that's where I'll leave it for now.
Okay. Another question about the audience.
Okay.
Let's assume you're taking someone who's watching you.
Mm-hmm.
Just a random stranger who just swiped, and then I'm seeing this video, and you could take them behind the scenes to a call room in a public hospital in the middle of the night. What would they see?
Patient or?
Patients this time.
You would see things that would make your heart break. And you would see things that would make your heart swell with joy. So let's talk about the swell with joy first. You would see doctors working very hard to save a life of somebody who just crashed. You would see doctors staying awake, regardless of the fact that they've not slept probably in 2 days, regardless of the fact that probably somebody from their hometown or village is calling them about school fees, about all these things, having all these burdens, but they're still present. You'll see a doctor that has not been relieved for several shifts because they didn't have anybody to cover for them. But on the other hand, the parts that would make your heart break is sometimes you would see the obvious signs of that fatigue. Sometimes you would see what looks like callousness, but it's really burnout. You would see sometimes that play out as if they are wicked, but it's not that. It's that they're running on E. They're running on empty. So it's really a mixed bag of things that you would see. But like they say, not all heroes wear capes. But there are a lot of people that are doing a lot of good. And unfortunately, bad news travels faster than good. So yes, there are a lot of bad stories. There are a lot of negativity. There's a lot of negativity regarding Nigerian healthcare and Nigerian healthcare professionals. But I do want to recognize and appreciate and acknowledge the people who are doing the very best that they can in very, very difficult circumstances. And they're showing up every day, regardless of personal issues going on, regardless of so many other things. And they're doing they're taking care of people. So thank you.
Yeah, that was quite touching.
Yeah.
But when we look at the exodus of doctors out of Nigeria,
yes,
the Japa Syndrome, doctors are leaving in droves. They're underpaid. They're overworked.
Yeah.
There is a house officer I know of who was supposed to be on call every day for a month. So let me explain to the person who's listening. When we say you're on call as a doctor in a public hospital, it means that for 24 hours, you are the doctor responsible for the care of the patients on the ward. This doctor was on call 24 hours for 30 days.
That's ridiculous. Oh my gosh.
No sleep. At least officially by the books. But he will be able to catch a nap there, depending on how full the ward is. Do you think that doctor can be effective?
No.
Why?
Physically. No, physically. I mean, if we even want to go into biology, right? This doctor's cortisol levels, which is a stress hormone, are at an all-time high. He's sleep deprived. And even in regular people, nobody is superhuman, at least not that we know of, right? But even in regular people, you do need sleep. You can probably go 1 to 3 days without sleep, but eventually it is going to catch up with you. Now, when you don't have enough sleep, I don't know how he's feeding or anything, but let's just even focus on sleep. your decision-making capacity is already impaired. So that is actually a very dangerous situation. Which is why in certain countries, once you've been on call 24 hours, you must leave the hospital. I mean, look at the airline industry. Now, if a pilot has been on for 24 hours, they cannot even touch the plane.
Yes, but now they allow you touch patients.
Exactly. And now you're telling me for 30 days.
Yes,
that's
for 30
dangerous.
Days. So it's like, would you enter the plane of a doctor, of a pilot who has not slept for 3 days?
I would never. And I would never leave the management of my hospital to somebody who has not left for 3 days, talk less about 30, who has not slept for 3 days. I mean, it's unbelievable.
How do we solve this problem?
So there are several things that I think that we need to do. Number one is an acknowledgement, first of all. I think government leadership. Okay.
Sorry to cut you short. You mentioned acknowledgement.
Yes.
And that just set off something in my head.
Okay.
When we say acknowledgement, it means that the doctors have to speak up.
Okay.
Sort of.
Okay.
Sort of. Like, I am acknowledging what you're saying.
Okay.
Does it feel like there's a culture of silence in medicine where doctors are being silenced when they want to talk, or even when they talk, they're not being acknowledged?
Absolutely.
Because I remember, you know why this topic is so personal to me? I got my house job in IMSUT, and as we started work, doctors went on strike because they had not been paid salaries for months. And you will think that, the doctors are striking. Now we're going to get the government to respond to them. But then the government of that time just says, no work, no pay. In other words, continue striking for as long as you can. I'm not going to pay you. And then you have patients who are in these hospitals seeking care because they cannot seek it from somewhere else. So does it look like there's a culture of silence, or does it feel like doctors are just tired of speaking up, especially in Nigeria?
No, I think that is a mixture of both. I think that there is a culture of being silenced. And I think that it is not that doctors have not spoken up. I mean, we're very educated, very smart people. We have no problem with speaking. But when you speak, and you're shut up, you're guilt-tripped every single time. Oh, you have it better than most. What's wrong with you? Why are you complaining? Isn't supposed to be out of the good of your heart. People are being, gaslit into silence. And then the more you speak up, you're not even being heard. Nothing is changing. After a while, what's the point?
True.
And that's where I think voices like ours, really should speak louder and louder for those who don't feel like talking anymore. We can't be quiet because it is actually a crisis. Like you said, it's a crisis going on and it needs to change. And I think the government is waking up now, especially with this massive exodus that has happened. When you have countries like England at a certain point, or Canada saying, we'll give you homes, you can even bring your house help, bring your whole family, we'll give you housing, we'll pay you, we'll do all these things. I mean, it's hard, for people to say no to that, because I was talking to several people who are not in the medical profession and they said, why are they saying no? Why can't they say no? Isn't this supposed to be for the good? And I'm like, would you hold yourself to that standard? When it's you. Right? I mean, I can talk about so many benefits, but obviously now, unfortunately, fortunately, I don't know what to say, but, England is full, Canada is full or getting full. And now they're like, we don't want any more. So now all those provisions are gone, So at the end of the day, do we have to wait for more and more countries to say, come? Or is there something that we can do so that we actually invite more people to come home? When I came home, almost 2 years ago now, people thought I was crazy. They were like, why are you coming? Everybody's leaving.
You came back to Nigeria from the US.
I came back to Nigeria from the US.
As an accomplished doctor in the US.
As an accomplished doctor in the US.
Are you crazy?
That's what everybody asks me. But it's part of some of my experiences drove me to do what I'm doing today.
What are some of those experiences?
Well, they would center around my father. My father's name was Harris Ibe Igyahan. And he got treatment in the US, actually. But all these years, he kept telling me, Enana, I want you to go back to Nigeria. You have so many gifts, so many talents. They don't need them here in the US. They need them in Nigeria. And, I would just brush it off. But he was dying. And I said, this is something that one of the things that led me or really encouraged me to make this move was, I was like, I wanted to honor him. I wanted to, really let him know I heard him. So shortly before he passed, I told him, I said, I'm doing it. And he told me he was proud of me and everything. I won't get emotional here. But anyway, let me tell you what really got me. He was diagnosed with cancer in 2020. And in the States, because I'm a doctor and because I'm his daughter, I was able to accompany him to several appointments. And I noticed something. The kind of care that he received when I was there was different from the kind of care that he received when I was not there, or the kind of care that my friends who are not in the medical profession received, right? So I learned that there is a power in advocacy, when a fellow healthcare professional is with you in care. And I'll get to why that's important in a second. The second thing that really got to me is when my father was dying. When we're talking about bad service, sometimes we think it's just in Nigeria. But when I tell you, it is everywhere. I saw it firsthand in my leadership role. I saw it in this story that I'm about to tell you. But to cut a very long story short, my father was in his last moments. They had withdrawn his tube. He was, he had just a few moments left. And all of a sudden, this nurse barged into the room with my family. We were about 7 because I have many siblings, and my mom was there. And she said, y'all are too many in this room. You need to basically leave the room. And we all looked at her like, are you serious? Like, my father might die any moment now, and you really think that this is the best time. So obviously we didn't pay her any mind, and we continued, trying to spend time with my dad. Her supervisor came back with security guards, and they stood at the door, and is a clear glass door in the ICU. And they stood at the door and they said, you all need to come out. And it just got worse from there. I won't even bore you with the story, but you can imagine at end of life care, the most sensitive time, these ICU personnel who had probably seen death over and over again had become so callous to the fact that this family was experiencing death for the very first time. And that kind of poor service, it lingered. I actually I would say maybe I just started talking about it freely just a couple of months ago, because that is how much injury it caused me and my siblings and my family. And I thought of suing them. I thought of, having news stations come. They didn't even know who I was. And I wanted to make sure that they didn't know who I was. And I was just like, is this what people go with? And when I even tried to talk to the supervisor, I was like, look, I'm a fellow professional. I didn't tell her my role. I didn't tell her my position, but she still treated me like that. And I said, wow, this is really bad. But what now happened as a result of that was I poured my anger, my frustration into this passion that I have to help to elevate service standards for patients and dealing with it from the root, which is what I've done my entire career, taking care of physicians, helping to reduce burnout. So I married those two into what I do today, which is helping doctors, not just saying, oh, smile at patients, don't be rude to patients, but really, can we get to the why? Can we reignite the passion that led you to medicine in the first place, that made you stay in school for 10 plus years? To do when you could have finished in 4, or maybe we strike 5 or 6, but you're spending over 10 years
a decade of your life.
Yes, of your life, of your youth, to study this thing. And then, because of all these issues, you're no longer able to really, control or, give the kind of care that you would have always wanted to. So that's what I do now. That's one of the things. And then the other one is I have my own practice where I'm able to practice the kind of medicine and advocate for my patients the way I advocated for my dad. So with the service that I provide, we're able to do like 360 degree, we follow them into their hospitals, we go with them into specialists, not physically, but virtually, we follow up and all those things. So we help to advocate for patients and they get better care as a result of our presence.
I don't know what to say, but I think I would first say, I'm sorry about your experience.
Thank you.
But at the same time, I have mixed feelings about what it has led you to do. I think you're one of the people who allowed their pain lead to purpose.
Yeah.
And that purpose was Elevate app.
Yes.
Do you have any success stories you could share from how you've been able to help doctors get to why?
Yeah. Yes. So I've actually successfully trained over 1,000 healthcare professionals just in the last year alone. And I'm still getting messages till today about how they feel healed. They feel heard, not just doctors, nurses, PAs, different levels of healthcare, EMS physicians and so on. What they're able to say is, for the first time, I felt like I had a safe place to share what I've been feeling. Or I had a person who heard me, who understood what I was going through. And then they were able to basically place a balm on the wounds and they're able to heal from there. As a matter of fact, one person came back to me and said, I just used what you taught me on a patient who was yelling at me, and we totally turned the situation around. So I've really been very touched, and I feel it gives me so much fuel to keep going when you see that what you're doing, what you're passionate about, because I'm passionate about patients, absolutely, but I'm also passionate about the caregivers.
Yeah.
And I think that duality is very important, because you do see a lot of people who are very passionate about patient care, but then they don't care about who's providing the care. So I like that balance, and I'm very, very encouraged about the response that we've gotten so far, and that's what has led me to create the app, as you mentioned.
Let's put the viewer in this particular conversation now, because what are the signs of burnout in a health professional? A doctor, a nurse, a medical lab scientist? What are some of the signs that's that's easy to spot?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and it's a tricky one. The reason I say it is because these signs don't only go with burnout. They're non-specific. Burnout doesn't have specific signs.
Okay.
So you might meet a doctor on a bad day. It doesn't mean that they're burned out, right? But the general signs are really when a doctor seems disconnected, when they seem callous, when they are not really connecting with you on a personal level, or when they seem dismissive, when nurses seem dismissive, or sometimes you can even just see the weight. Sometimes they'll leave you. You can almost tell it's not that they are mad at you or at what you're feeling, is that there are so many other things going on. So those are the more overt signs. A lot of these things are more covert and subtle. And it's typically colleagues that can see it because, because they spend more time with the doctor or with the nurses and the other healthcare professionals. But I think my major point here is saying, when you see a doctor who is not completely tuned in, it's not always that they don't mean to be. That's what I would say. But at the same time, it's not fair to the patient who paid to see the doctor, to not get the best, right? So I don't want it to be like, oh, the onus is on the patient now to heal the doctor and so on. All I'm trying to say is, we're all humans. This is a human experience at the end of the day.
Can you share a situation where burnout led to a critical mistake in a person's life?
Ooh. I can share several. So there's a surgeon who was sleep deprived and went in to operate. Obviously, sometimes especially when you're in a more technical medical field like surgeries, you already know what to do is but they didn't follow the usual protocol that they should have. And they ended up removing the wrong leg from the patient. Absolutely. Wow. Yeah. These are big issues. So when we're talking about burnout, we're not talking about emotions. It's not just emotions. It's things that can lead to severe issues. And please, I don't want it to come across like it's only Nigerians that are burnt out. Just up until last year, burnout in the US was 62%. Nigeria is 75%. So yes, there's a big difference, but burnout is real. I mean, the highest rate of suicide, one of the highest rates of suicide in terms of professions is medicine, doctors, right? So these are real issues that we're talking about. And so we can't rely on patients to solve the problem.
I agree.
We have to come at it as an entire body, from the government, the systems, and everybody, the leaders, and we have to solve this issue. So it leads to errors. Errors are the biggest result, of burnout.
Burnout.
Big errors, not small. Yeah. And sometimes small, sometimes big, any error, Yeah. You're putting your life in somebody's hands and you're trusting that, they've gotten some sleep. And it's not, too many stories to count to you. And this story I just told you didn't happen in Nigeria.
Yeah. I heard of a doctor who took a patient to the operating table.
Yeah.
And then was supposed to have a burhole surgery on the left side. And then they drilled the right side.
Oh my
instead.
God.
And they had to send the patient back and bring him back another day in order to drill the possible side. So this is somebody who should have spent less time in the hospital, now having to spend a longer time at the hospital because now he has 2 boreholes
Oh my gosh.
in his head. You mentioned acknowledgements.
Yeah.
The organizations that be and the powers that be have to first of all recognize that there is a problem.
Yes.
And acknowledge it.
You have to.
You also mentioned that doctors in the US burnout rate 62%, burnout rates in Nigeria 75%. I know that the burnout rate in the US has reduced.
It has reduced.
And we know that the government is partly responsible for this.
Absolutely.
What did they do differently? And what can our own government copy from this?
Thank you. So I actually have it here because I was very interested in this. This statistic just came out that the US burnout rate has reduced from 62% to between 41 and 45%, which is a huge drop. That 62% was pandemic time. And so now this is the lowest it's been since then. So what happened was that the physicians have an advocacy group called the AMA, the American Medical Association. And this American Medical Association went to the government and said, we need to change certain things.
Okay.
So the government listened. And I think that's one of the key things I would say. We need to start listening and stop making excuses and stop, finding other ways to do that. So I'll tell you just 3 of the things that they did. They created 40 policies to protect physicians and non-physician providers. But some of the things that they did was they created a Joy in Medicine program. Okay, very interesting. And basically, they reward institutions who are very intentional about reducing burnout in their staff.
Okay.
So so the institutions that actually take very active steps to reduce burnout, to stamp out, to eliminate root causes of burnout, are actually given gold, silver, or bronze recognitions and so on, and which comes with a lot of CMS benefits. CMS is Medicare, Medicaid. So that comes to pay. Now, another thing that they did was they removed what they call stupid tasks. So reduction of stupid tasks, things that you don't let everybody perform at their license. Right. So instead of like the documentation, now they introduced AI scribes. So now doctors can talk to patients without, I need to document that. because AI is documenting.
Removes burnout by a massive number.
Amount. I mean, we're told if you don't document, it didn't happen.
It didn't happen.
Exactly.
If you did not write it down,
it didn't write it down. And so you can imagine you're seeing 20, 40, sometimes 60 patients a day. And you have to write. In Nigeria, most of the hospitals, you have to write by hand. Exactly. So how much are you actually going to write? So they institutionalized, because AI scribe was not allowed previously, but now they've allowed it. So now it has taken off a lot of burden from physicians, right? And from healthcare providers. So those are just some of the things that they've done
Shameless plug here.
Yes.
Shameless plug.
Come on.
That's also what we're trying to do with our doc.
Awesome.
Right? So what our doc is also supposed to do is to help the doctor. Aside from helping the patients, it helps the doctor because it can help you better clerk a patient and record it and give you a report.
Yeah.
So you as the doctor are the one piloting the AI.
That's amazing.
But it helps your diagnosis. It helps reduce your burnout. So like you said, this conversation matters to me because by the time we sit down and have these conversations, especially with the people that matter, we can show you how it reduces burnout.
Correct.
And increases patient care.
Absolutely.
But please continue.
Yes, no problem. And there are already AI tools out there. And I know a lot of Nigerians are so brilliant. So if you want to make our Nigerian version like what you've done, please, it's a huge need in the medical space. So, I mean, there are so many things, but I think what these people did started with listening.
Okay.
Don't make excuses. Don't subvert what people are saying or ask rebuttal questions. Like, if people are saying the same thing, keep asking to know, not asking to refute. And so that's what this body did. They kept asking and asking and asking, and then they got this amount of data. They carried that data to the government and said, look at what's going on. Look at how many errors have happened because of physician burnout. We only have this number of physicians for this number of physicians and physician providers. I'm using broad statements. For this number of patients.
Yeah.
We cannot keep losing because people are dropping out of medicine, dropping out of healthcare. So you can imagine, like, it was a really, real big crisis. But the government sat down and they listened. And they not only listened, they started to act. They started to approve these policies. Because once you put it into law, everybody has to abide by them. So now it wasn't just because all the policies in the past were to protect patients, but now you had things to help the doctors as well and the nurses and all the healthcare providers. So I think that's what we need to do. The answers are already looking at us. I mean, we know them. They're so obvious. Number one is pay for our healthcare providers, right? Number two is systems, infrastructure, right? Number three is training. We need to get better training for our healthcare providers. How do we, make sure that they're continuing to learn? How do we incentivize them to do so that we're on top of, the new knowledge that's coming out every single day? So there are many things that we can do. It's a big conversation, I have a whole document on it. So
it is a big conversation.
Yep.
But another thing that we should mention is you're also the founder of Getmedco.
Yes, I am.
And what problem is that trying to solve?
So Getmedco, for those who don't know, so I have Getmed companies and I have several companies under that. But Getmed Concierge is basically, its purpose is to reverse medical tourism. That's what I'm here.
Look.
Yes. Its purpose is to reverse medical tourism. So Nigeria spends anywhere between $1 to $4 billion on healthcare outside its borders. And this can be in Europe, America, South Africa. But basically, all this money is leaving our country for so many reasons. And so one of my missions is, hey, I am, to God's glory, a top-level physician, U.S. trained, U.S. board certified, whatever. So now we're coming here and we are saying, you don't have to travel or you don't have to spend all that money outside. You don't have to, spend for accommodation, for travel, for, airplanes and all these kind of things. This help is now here to whosoever wants it. And so that's what our service does. So it provides very, very customized, very personalized care for individuals. But not only that, it also coordinates care as well. So you would have a dedicated concierge liaison who helps to book all your appointments, but not just with anybody, with the best of the best. I'm very particular. So we help people to schedule appointments within the country. Some people are very particular that they want outside of country, but now we're keeping that information here because fragmented care is a big problem. Oh, my doctor is in Germany. Oh, another one is in Australia. Another one is in. So now we're able to bring all that information into one place in our Getmedco app. There's an app for all our patients. And so we do all of those things. But so far, it's been phenomenal. Patients love it. We're getting 5-star reviews all over the place. So I'm very satisfied with what we're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And on the flip side, I don't know if you want to talk about that or not, which is the Elevate app.
Yes,
the training.
So I was just also about to say that, but I want to say this for the clarity.
Yeah.
I'll put the link to Getmedco and Elevate app in the description. So if you're interested in any of those apps, which I think you are, especially if you need care or you lead a health organization and you realize that you could actually help the people in your health organization, there's a link down there for you. So Elevate.
Oh my gosh. So Elevate is the training and consulting arm. That's what I've been referring to when I say I've been training people. Yeah. Elevate is my training app, and that's basically how we're able to, that's what I was referring to when I said I've been training other people. Yeah. So I refer to it as my people, my colleagues, my healthcare professionals. If you're in healthcare, this app is basically for you. And basically, like we've been talking about, it helps the healthcare provider from the ground up. So it helps to deal with reigniting your passion. It helps to deal with leveling up your career. You want to grow in your career. How do you do that? Then it helps you reconnect with patients in a mind-blowing way where your patients will be like, oh my gosh, this has totally changed. And also when you have escalations, when people are yelling at you or when things don't go the way you thought, how do you actually center? How do you actually, de-escalate? So it trains you on everything. So we thought about every aspect that doctors, nurses, and other healthcare professionals go through. And all that is in our courses. So we have one for healthcare professionals, and then we have one for healthcare leaders, which is a big deal because there are a lot of leadership programs, but healthcare leadership is very unique.
Yeah.
It's very different. So there are a lot of things you can transplant from your leadership courses, but to have someone speak to your specific need, it's really important. And that's what we do with our courses. So I think so far we've only heard rave reviews. Hospitals are getting it and it's going live very soon. So I'm very excited.
What are some of the hospitals you've worked with worldwide?
Ooh, should I say?
Yes,
can I say?
Put your own on.
Well, one of them is called Wellness Partners in Liberia. They heard about this. Another one is Evercare, and several other ones. We have conversations even today and everything.
The best of the best.
Well, so I would say this: when we say best of the best, why? Why are they best of the best? Because they want to invest in their people. Best comes from invest. And I think that we have to, when you invest in your people, you will get the best. So these people said, we need help in this area and we can do better. So let's get training for our staff, for our people. And the staff were very, very appreciative. Very appreciative.
That. I'm still in that line. Best comes from invest. Taking is mine now. But thank you. Thank you for an insightful conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
This has been one of the best conversations I've had in a while.
Wow.
Not just because it sheds light on the problem, but it also shines light on the solutions.
Yes.
But not just that, the people leading the solution. And that's, people like you.
Yeah.
I'm proud to be associated with you.
Same here. Thank you.
If you are watching this and you're a medical professional, a health professional, and you feel tired, you're numb, you're tired of pretending like you have it all together, or you just feel like punching the wall sometimes, you are not alone. And I want you to also understand that your voice matters. Your sacrifices do not go without being noticed. Trust me, we see you and we know that it will get better.
Absolutely.
We will continue to advocate for better care, but not just for the patients, but for you, the health professional behind this. And maybe the Elevate app is just the best place to start. Until always, I'll see you on the next episode of Unclog with Aproko.